Hey guys, welcome to this quick comparison of these two Xtend and Climb telescoping ladder models. Here I have the 770p. These are both 12.5 foot. I've got the 770p, 12.5 foot. That is type 1 duty rating, 250 pounds. On the left, this yellow one. And on the right, we got the 780p, which is type 1A, 300 pound duty rating, again, 12.5 feet. So the extension's the same on both of these. I'll go over the differences because there are some differences between these. I'm a homeowner. I bought both of them to kind of compare, and then I'm going to return the one that I don't want to keep, and I'll talk more about that. But differences and similarities. So the differences: construction. You can see the tubing on the 780p, again the 300 pound type 1A duty rating. On the right, the tubing on this one is noticeably larger, so that does contribute to a little more increased weight. This one does weigh about 5 pounds more, and you do feel that carrying around. To me, it's not a deal breaker. If you have back issues, if you have a problem carrying around weight, and that extra 5 pounds, 4 or 5 pounds is going to be an issue for you, the 770p is definitely a bit lighter. However, these do feel a bit rickety. So when you get up on them, and I'll show you the flex in a minute, but when you get up on them, I would call this one pretty rickety. I would call this one downright just... it's ridiculous, the amount of flex in it. Do I believe that the ratings are fine? Do I believe you're going to be safe on it? Yeah, I don't think these things are going to collapse on you or anything, but they're not super confidence inspiring. So there's a joint at each one of these rungs, right? Picture an extension ladder. Apologies about this bird, by the way. This is what you get when you live out in the woods, but this dude has been going nuts. So sorry for the racket in the background. Anyways. With a regular extension ladder, you've got one joint between the top and the bottom, and you got some flex in there. If you're familiar with that amount of flex on a regular, typical extension ladder, multiply that by every one of these rungs where you've got a joint that's flexing, and that's what you get with these. So that's the trade-off that you have for the collapsible ladder and the small form factor. I mean, these things fit anywhere. You can put it in the back seat of your car if you want. So on the positive end, they're super compact, real easy to carry around. They're not heavy at all. The con to that is that they're a bit rickety and they're a little tough to use. So I'll show you how they extend and collapse and show you the flex on them. Okay, so they're fully extended. I'll just kind of talk a little bit about the differences in operating these two. So we talked about the weight and the tubing size, and yeah, there's differences in the duty rating and blah, blah, blah. The biggest difference between these two, that is by far the most noticeable thing, is the flex on them. I'm going to push on these about the same. It's tough to tell on camera, but look at the amount of flex in this 770 versus the 780. Big difference. So yeah, if you're at all concerned with flex and you want this to feel confidence inspiring, the 780 is the one to go to. Collapsing them, telescoping them. So the 780, with that said, with the bigger tubing, with the extra weight, you do feel more resistance when you're extending it. It's a little bit more effort to both extend the ladder and collapse it. The mechanisms are the same for collapsing them. You've probably seen these, with these little thumb things, and you push them in. These ladders, like the rungs over here, they come crashing down. So keep your fingers out of the way. This is a pinch point here. You don't want to do it like that. You want to keep your fingers below the rung over here. They're the same until you get down to the bottom. Note that the bottom two rungs on the 780p, due to the increased duty rating and the increased weight, they have a different mechanism down here. So these aren't the thumb ones that push in. You just kind of twist them with your finger like this. I've read some reviews where people were complaining about the ladder getting hung up on collapsing and it doesn't collapse properly. Understand that each rung, the tube is going into the rung below it, right? So if you don't leave room for it by doing it how they tell you to, it is going to hang up and it's not going to collapse fully, right? You'll push this one over here and it'll only go down through here, right? This thing will go in, but the rest of it won't. See where the locks are? It's designed like that. They want you to get on the bottom here and do it from the bottom up when you're collapsing. Now, in order to do that, I'm gonna have to pull this away from the house. It's gonna be up in the air, hanging around, and I'm gonna have to balance that while I kneel down and release these and keep my fingers out of the way so I don't get my skin pinched. It's easier said than done. The best way that I've found to do this is to start in the middle, do these thumb ones. It's going to collapse, maybe not fully on some of these rungs, right? It's going to go down to here and you're going to have it. It's not getting hung up. It's not a fault of the ladder. It's the way you're collapsing it. But you know, the top ones will go in. You'll just have some middle ones in here that won't collapse fully until you get down to the bottom rungs. You release those, and then the whole thing will collapse, and it's fine. Are these better than a regular extension ladder? Well, they're super compact. They're pretty darn light, and you know, you can take them anywhere, and they're great with respect to, you know, the functionality and just, you know, the compact nature of them. Again, they are rickety. Getting up on these things, it doesn't feel confidence inspiring like a regular extension ladder would, or you know, even like an A-frame, like a Little Giant or a Gorilla ladder or that type of thing. I've got a couple other ones. These are super nice to just kind of keep in the garage. You can throw them in the trunk of the car. You can carry them around the house for something quick, cleaning gutters out or whatever. And it's a lot less cumbersome than carrying a bigger ladder around, but they're a bit of a bear to telescope and collapse. You know, these things, you see people complain about them. Yeah, it takes some effort. I can see how some people would have issues collapsing these things. But in the end, that's the trade-off that you have for the convenience of the form factor. So yeah, overall, I like the ladders. I am going to keep the 780p. The extra 4 or 5 pounds to me is no big deal as a trade-off for the just increased robustness, because this 770, as you can see, it's rickety. It moves around a lot. I just don't like it. I feel like the 780 just feels a lot better. It's a little bit more money. It's a little bit more weight, a little bit more effort to telescope and collapse, but I feel it's worth it to have that extra confidence when you're up on the ladder and not have it flex as much. So yeah, I hope that helps. Feel free to leave a comment, and see you guys on the next one.